Hello and thanks for joining us for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. Let's start by taking a look at the day's headlines. Updating the nation, President Moon Jae-in will reveal his stance on a possible third summit between North Korea and the US after their respective leaders said they were open to the idea. Consolidating his grip on power, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un acquires a new title, becoming the supreme representative of all the Korean people. Plus, Tiger Woods is crowned the comeback king after his first major victory since 2008, after he wins the big one, the Masters at Augusta. Our top story this morning, though, President Moon Jae-in is likely to reveal his stance on the latest developments related to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula in the coming hours. This after the US and North Korean leaders revealed their willingness to hold a third summit at some point in the future. A Blue House official who asked not to be named said President Moon will share with his senior aides the outcome of his summit last week at the White House with President Trump, as well as the details of possibly sending a special South Korean envoy to the north. It will be the first time for him to speak on the issue since the regime's state-run media called on President Moon to speak more eagerly on behalf of the interests of Koreans instead of remaining a, quote, officious mediator. In other words, pressing the South Korean leader to do more. Now, negotiations between the US and North Korea appear to have stalled somewhat following the breakdown of their second summit in Hanoi that happened back in February. But remarks by both leaders, President Trump and Kim Jong-un, that they're willing to resume talks have really flipped the growing pessimism we were seeing into a much more optimistic outlook for the near future. Won Jung-hwan has this report.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he is open to a third summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, reciprocating Kim's willingness to resume negotiations. In a tweet Saturday morning, Trump said he agreed with Kim that their personal relationship remains very good and that a third summit will be beneficial to fully understand where they each stand. Trump continued that North Korea has tremendous potential for extraordinary growth, economic success, and riches under the leadership of Chairman Kim, expressing his hope for the day when nuclear weapons and sanctions can be removed, and then watching North Korea become one of the most successful nations of the world. Trump's tweet came in response to a speech Kim's made at the North Korea's parliament on Friday, during which he said he will be willing to hold a third summit if the U.S. comes with a fair and mutually acceptable deal. While also expressing his personal relations with Trump remains excellent, he added that before any meeting, the U.S. must change its policies toward the North and lift sanctions by the end of the year. Kim's remark that he can wait with patience until the end of the year indicates the regime is not likely to accept Washington's so-called big deal proposal that calls for the dismantling of all the North Korea's nuclear, missile, and other weapons programs before any sanctions relief. Pyongyang wants a phase-in, incremental approach toward its nuclear disarmament, while Washington has remained adamant that the North must completely denuclearize before any significant rewards are given. And in the latest development, a Japan-based pro-North Korean newspaper, Joseon Shinbo, said Sunday that the U.S. may need to take a different stance. The paper stressed that in order for the two countries to take a huge leap forward, the U.S. must throw out its attachment to sanctions and its antagonistic view of the North. Whether either leader will reverse course before the end of the year remains to be seen. Won Jung-hwan, Arirang News.
Now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has further tightened his grip on power by bestowing himself yet another title. This time it is Supreme Representative of all Korean people. Now, analysts say the new title indicates Kim's growing confidence about his influence both inside and outside North Korea. Kim Hyo-sun with the details.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has added Supreme Representative of all the Korean people to his long list of titles, a sign of granting more authority to the young leader. Describing Kim's re-election as the chairman of the State Affairs Commission, the state-run Korean Central News Agency explained he also assumes the post of the Supreme Representative of all the Korean people and the Supreme Leader of the Republic. Previously, the chairman of the State Affairs Commission was only referred to as the Supreme Leader of the Republic. Analysts suggest there may have been a constitutional revision to give Kim Jong-un greater control over the totalitarian state. While the regime said it revised the constitution during the two-day parliamentary session held late last week, no further details were disclosed. Some pundits also say Kim's new title could be related to the fact he was not among the 687 deputies newly elected to the rubber stamp parliament, which was the first time in the regime's history that the top leader has not held a seat in the Supreme People's Assembly. Although it's not yet clear exactly how Kim's role will be expanded, it's certain the new title suggests greater influence at home and abroad. Kim Ho-san, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea is said to be interested in buying Russian passenger airplanes in a bid to boost its flight safety. This is according to the deputy chairman of Russia's State Duma, Sergei Neverov. Leading a Russian delegation to Pyongyang, the senior official told Russia's TASS news agency that the two sides discussed the issue of civil aviation and flight safety, and North Korean foreign ministry officials showed an interest in buying new Russian planes. Neverov added such dialogue should continue as civil aviation is not restricted under the UN sanctions on the regime. President Moon Jae-in is readying for state visits to 3 Central Asian nations, namely Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, and he will set off on Tuesday. The president's focus during his 8-day tour will be on his new northern policy, and this is aimed at revitalizing economic exchanges between Seoul and countries in North and Central Asia. An official at the Blue House says the trip will allow South Korea to further shore up relations with the respective nations and lay the foundation for future partnerships through President Moon's new northern policy drive. Now, Kumho Asiana Group, which owes some $3 billion to financial institutions, has been struggling to revitalize its management since its chairman stepped down last month, and the company was dealt another blow late last week after the Financial Services Commission rejected its self-rescue plan. Kim Da-mi with the details.
The fate of the South Korea's number 2 airline Asiana is up in the air after creditors and financial regulators rejected Kumho Asiana's self-rescue plan last Friday, criticizing its failure to show sincerity. The plan to try and resuscitate the struggling conglomerate had included handing over the founding family's stakes as a collateral, including 4.8% held by former chairman Park Sam-gu's wife and children, and a pledge to sell off Asiana Airlines if it fails to meet creditors' demands in 3 years. In return, the conglomerate requested $440 million worth of financial help from the state-run bank. However, as a result of its unsuccessful self-rescue plan, the pressure is now on to sell its main affiliate, Asiana Airline. Meanwhile, Choi Jong-gu, chairman of the Financial Services Commission, said financial support should be aimed at resuscitating the company, not helping the Park family maintain control over it. He also cited reports that former chairman Park, who stepped down from his role last month, will hand the reins over to his son.
Kumho Asiana's issue and its struggle have revealed flaws of the so-called chaebol management. The reason why it's in so much debt is because the chairman borrowed so much money under the company, yet he tries to keep his power under his son.
While creditors are expected to force Kumho to submit a more credible self-rescue plan, Kumho said it will further continue negotiations with its creditors. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea is rolling out stronger restrictions on diesel emissions to tackle, hopefully, the fine dust crisis here in the nation. The Ministry of Environment says the government is starting a 40-day legislation notice period from today to set new standards for the nitrogen oxide emissions pumped out by diesel-powered vehicles. The new regulations are expected to more accurately measure emissions, as they will check numbers while the vehicles are actually on the road, unlike in-house testings of the past. The ministry says it will continue to set stronger regulations in a bid to reduce fine dust. Now, South Korea's world-first launch of the superfast 5G network launched after much anticipation and fanfare, and it did so earlier this month. However, it seems user experience hasn't really met expectations, with 5G usage limited to only certain heavily populated areas of the country. Our Arirang has this report.
Is the wow factor already wearing off for 5G mobile users? In the week since the country launched the wireless network for mobile phone subscribers, more than 100,000 have switched to 5G handsets and monthly plans. However, it seems they are far from impressed. There's growing criticism that mobile carriers are failing to deliver their promise of a super-fast and seamless user experience. The biggest complaint has been the severely limited access to 5G. There are only 85,000 5G base stations installed throughout the country, 86% of which are concentrated in Seoul and 5 other major cities. Users say connections have been shaky at best, even in central Seoul, forcing them to fall back on the LTE network. The lack of connectivity is not the only issue. Seemingly moderately priced, totally unlimited data plans offered by carriers KT and LGU+ have also come under fire. What had been advertised as unlimited was actually subject to restrictions after hitting certain thresholds. This clause in the fine print has now been removed following much criticism. Still, that hasn't quelled suspicions that the apparently generous conditions may be designed to make LTE users upgrade to 5G, despite what seems to have been a premature launch of the network. With their half-baked pricing tactics and grandiose marketing, experts say telecom companies are missing the point.
If the experience is good enough, consumers will be willing to pay more for 5G subscriptions. But there's not enough optimized content. Carriers need to develop strong, diverse content using features like augmented reality and virtual reality that provide a sensational user experience. Without that, high speed and lower prices lack appeal.
Given the higher data capacity and installation costs compared to 3G or 4G networks, industry experts say it would take 2 to 3 years for the whole country to be fully covered by a 5G network that could provide a truly seamless user experience. Arirang, Arirang News.
Now, a new survey has found that only 1 in 10 single Koreans feel strongly about having to have a wedding ceremony if or when they get married, according to a survey of nearly 2,500 unmarried Koreans between the ages of 20 and 44. About 44% of men and 34% of women said they generally agreed on the need of having a wedding ceremony. However, 14.5% of men and 10.8% of women strongly wanted a wedding ceremony. The Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs, which conducted the poll, said the results show Koreans are putting more emphasis on their own life choices than traditional values. Now, the world's largest social media networks, Facebook and Instagram, as well as messaging application WhatsApp, suffered massive global outages on Sunday. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Hongyu. Now, I must admit that I don't really use many of these platforms anymore, but it must have really given tens of millions of people a lot of stress and headaches.
Yes, Mark, the 3 Facebook-owned services were unavailable on Sunday for more than 3 hours, starting from 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The website Down Detector reported that thousands of people complained about the services not allowing them access. News feeds refused to refresh for both Facebook and Instagram, and the main's facebook.com domain was unavailable for more than 2 hours. Messages could not be sent or received via WhatsApp, and same was true for Facebook's chat service. During these hours of frustration, users turned to Twitter, and hashtags such as Facebook down, Instagram down, and WhatsApp down were trending globally. The services appear to be back up and running for most users by 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sunday's service outage comes just a month after its longest outages in March, when users could not access the site for more than 24 hours. Facebook had blamed a server configuration change. In what could well be one of the greatest comeback stories in sports history, Tiger Woods won his first major title in 11 years, and his 5th green jacket after winning the 2019 Masters on Sunday. Using their reports.
The last time Tiger Woods won a major, his daughter was about to turn 1, and his son had not even been born. Fast forward 11 years, and Tiger would pull off one of the greatest comeback stories in sports history, winning the 2019 Masters. On top of that, for the first time in his career, Woods came from behind to win a major. In a tight race on the final day of the Masters, Woods shot a 2 under 70 for his final round to hold off 3 other major winners on his tail. The 13 under par overall finish gave Woods the famous victory at Augusta and the 5th green jacket of his illustrious career. Could his latest win be the most dramatic of all? That's open for debate, but one thing's for sure, Tiger has once again proved to everyone that he's one of golf's all-time greats. His 5th Masters victory is second only to Jack Nicklaus's 6, and his 15 major wins only trails Nicklaus's 18. Woods also became the second oldest man to win a green jacket at 43, with Nicklaus being the oldest at 46 years old. 22 years ago, at just 21 years old, Woods became the youngest Masters champion, winning the 1997 tournament by jaw-dropping 12 strokes. He would later go on to win his 2nd Masters at 25, his 3rd at 26, and his 4th at 29. The 14-year wait for his 5th green jacket is the longest gap between Masters win in history. With his very public divorce in 2010 to his DUI charge in 2017, as well as serious back injuries, Tiger's career seemed to have fizzled out. But Woods is no longer old news as he kickstarts his journey to try and break Jack Nicklaus's records. 이승재, Arirang News.
Germany's Motor Vehicle Authority is investigating Daimler on suspicions that 60,000 Mercedes-Benz cars use software that tricked emissions tests. A spokesman for Daimler said the automaker was reviewing the facts and fully cooperating with the agency. Daimler previously recalled 3 million vehicles to fix excess emissions coming from their diesel engines. It said the company had complied with the German Transport Ministry's regulations when updating software for recalled vehicles.
Thank you very much to our Hongyu for the world news. Now it's time for our Life and Info segment, where we focus on information that is hopefully useful for your everyday life. We're going to start off with some health issues because sudden deafness, true to its name, is the rapid loss of hearing, and about a third of cases result in permanent hearing loss, even with treatment. So it's extremely important to be diagnosed and treated within the golden time, which medical experts say is just 2 weeks. Our Park Se-young with more.
This patient suddenly lost hearing in one ear. She went to the hospital as soon as she experienced the feeling that her ear was full and had trouble hearing upon waking up in the morning. But at the hospital, she found out that her hearing loss had become permanent. Sudden deafness, unlike age-related hearing loss or noise-induced hearing loss, usually only affects one ear. About 80% of patients hear ringing in their ears and 30% become dizzy, both accompanied by a feeling of ear fullness.
A hearing loss of 30 decibels or more over at least 3 frequencies within 3 days is defined as sudden deafness.
The treatment consists of a high dose of steroids, which are first taken orally. Steroids can also be injected into the space behind the eardrum. The high doses come with side effects like stomach problems and worsening of symptoms in people with diabetes or high blood pressure. Even with the treatment, only about 1/3 of patients completely recover, while another 1/3 have a partial recovery, and the rest end up needing hearing aids or cochlear implants. Experts emphasize the importance of receiving treatment within 2 weeks of diagnosis.
Organ transplants must take place within the golden period of 6 to 8 hours, but they won't work for sudden deafness 2 weeks after the onset. It's best to get diagnosed as early as possible and begin using medicines.
The exact cause of sudden deafness is unknown, but some possible causes include illness and stress. People experiencing symptoms like hearing different volumes in each ear, a muffling of speech, ringing in the ears, and feeling of ear fullness should consider it a medical emergency and visit a doctor immediately. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, continuing on with our health-related info, eating too many snacks filled with sugar and fat can increase the risk of having a child with food allergies. Now, combined research by Seoul's Asan Medical Center and Severance Hospital surveyed the snacking patterns of 1,600 mothers and analyzed their babies' umbilical cord blood. The researchers found that snacks like bread, ice cream and chocolate increase the risk of food allergies in babies by 1.51 times. They pointed to the influence of high trans fat intake, adding that food allergies in children involve both genetic and environmental factors. Now, less than 10 minutes of power walking a day can help prevent disability in people with arthritis in their knees, hips, ankles or feet, according to a new study from Northwestern University. In the US, just 1 hour of moderate to brisk walking a week was shown to reduce the risk of mobility disability, like walking too slowly to safely cross the street, by 85%. The risk of not being able to do daily living activities like bathing and dressing was reduced by nearly 45%. Currently, the US National Health Service recommends that older adults with arthritis get 2.5 hours of moderate exercise a week, and the researchers suggest the new minimum threshold may motivate inactive people to set a physical activity goal. Seoul City is looking to spice up local workers' lunch hours with some live performances at Seoul Plaza, which is in front of Seoul City Hall, as pre-show performances for the 2019 Culture and Art in Seoul Plaza events. The Seoul Metropolitan Government has scheduled 5 performances for the month of April. These begin with a Pinocchio-themed circus performance on Monday, and other events include a traditional Korean performance and a large-scale puppet show. Now, these performances will be held on the 15th, 17th, 22nd, 24th and 26th of April from 12:20 p.m. and will last for 30 minutes. Starting with these performances, Seoul Plaza will host various events like musical performances and plays for all age groups up until October.
Good morning. Spring is definitely in the air. Readings will top what we saw yesterday by midday, and it will be even warmer tomorrow with highs rising into the 20s here in the capital. And most of us will enjoy decent air quality today, so it's a great day to spend some time outdoors, and we'll have clean air tomorrow as well. But be sure to wear a good amount of sunblock to protect yourself from UV rays, especially those on Jeju Island, which will see very high UV levels during the afternoon. Now this afternoon, daily highs will be in the upper teens to low 20s, Seoul topping out at 18 degrees Celsius, which is right around the seasonal average. Daegu and Gyeongju will get up to 22 degrees this afternoon under clear blue skies. Nothing seems to be out of ordinary in terms of weather, while Seoul will be under mostly sunny skies with big temperature differences. Meanwhile, Jeju will see showers for the first half of the week. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Monday morning here in Seoul. Stay tuned to Arirang TV, and a reminder that our next newscast is coming up in around 90 minutes from now at noon Korea time with our very own Lee Ji-yoon. So until then, goodbye.